This chapter explains a little bit about the tyrant Kuma and his powers, and man, I tell you, it just overwhelming odds for the Straw Hats again.
One Piece, chapter 484. Squish.
Oh. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters, and the Shichibukai, and of course the Yonkos, and all of the fellow members of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, and I'm here to bring you another review on the awesome and excellent and excruciating and really thoughtful, inventive tale that is One Piece. Now, our last chapter, of course, saw us with, after all of the events happening surrounding the eventual defeat of Oars and then Moria and everybody's shadows being returned, the crew couldn't even catch their breath before Kuma was then, of course, Bartholomew Kuma, he was ordered by the world government to go and leave no witnesses and to pretty much just take out everyone that was left surviving, which would be the Straw Hats, of course, as well as, and Luffy is knocked out, he's unconscious now because he really did take it to the limit, or past the limit, I guess you should say, as he always does. And then, of course, there's everyone else that's, Lola and her crew and whatnot, everyone else that remains on Thriller Bark. So anyway, that's where things left off. Things actually left off with him going and challenging Zoro. He said, "I'll start with you, pirate hunter Zoro." And this Kuma, man, he is one bad dude, man. I didn't know what to think of him when I first saw him 250 chapters ago, because I just saw him, just like that Doflamingo guy. You see him. Sometimes their designs may look a little goofy, you know what I mean? Proportionate-wise and everything else. He's this big barrel-chested dude. Anyways, that holds a Bible, and he's Kuma, the tyrant, right? I don't know anything about the guy. Nonetheless, though, so Zoro goes and he's going to stand up and he's going to go toe-to-toe with him. And what I liked about this is Zoro has got a lot of nuts. He's got a lot of nuts, he's got a lot of heart. Just absolutely, there's not enough good things that you can say about his character, his poise, and his demeanor in, especially at facing overwhelming odds, right? Everyone else is like ready to pack it in, man. They're upset. Woe is me. Why is this happening? Zoro's like, I'm gonna take this motherfucker out because he challenged me, right? Because you got everybody else going, it's okay, and don't worry. Even though he can't be, he's just one of the 7 warlords. He can't be worse than Oars and Moria. We'll fight together and this and that. And Zoro's like, he challenged me, didn't you hear? Step back, step the fuck off, and let me take this dude out, And that's ultimately what he winds up saying. I just kind of paraphrase it into my own special words, but you get the idea. It was basically just like, stay out of this. He obviously challenged me. I accepted the challenge. That's all there is to it. So even though he's weakened from the battle and everything else, Zoro is not going to step down. He's not going to step back. So he winds up going to try to come at him, and hit him with the 36-pound phoenix, right, from one of his swords. And Kuma just goes and deflects it off of his hand, and it goes squish. Makes a squish sound, right? Now, at the end of last chapter, when he wound up doing that move and nailing everybody, he seems to do these moves to people, and he doesn't even seem to hit them. They just seem to disappear or be hurt, and he doesn't even touch them, right? Well, we wind up finding out that with this squish and deflection stuff and everything that he does, because he actually winds up going in a couple of times coming at and trying to hit Zoro, he doesn't even hit the ground, but he winds up missing Zoro, and then there's like a paw print imprinted in the ground, right? So then eventually, a few pages into the chapter, we find out that he's actually eaten the Paw-Paw devil fruit, right? And he is now a paw, he has paws, but he's a human, right? So, and it was funny because even the Straw Hats are like, really, Frankie's like, how can you say that with a straight face? And they're thinking of cats and meow and paws and this and that. And then Frankie goes and says something to the effect of, oh, well, if he's just done that, he's going to be real easy. Before he can even finish the sentence, man, boom, he gets nailed, right? What winds up, with the way they explain it is that his paws, he can somehow or another deflect or hold energy, like air mass energy, right? So he can go and deflect the particles in the air at like light speed and actually more or less hit you with like a physical burst of air, but hit so hard that it actually is like getting hit by a concrete wall, That's the best way that I could describe it, is you talk about how you can deflect the particles in the air for an air mass. Even later on in the chapter, he goes and actually does something where he goes and it looks like he's collecting all the air in an air mass and bringing it down smaller and smaller. So he's basically taking all those particles and compressing them, and compressed energy, of course, when released, creates a shock wave or a bomb-like explosion, right? So that's basically what he winds up eventually getting to creating. But let's go back to the Zoro and him, the one-on-one conflict. So he winds up coming at Zoro. Zoro winds up doing a couple other moves to him. Nothing is hitting him, of course, you know. And Zoro's certainly giving it his all, but nothing's really happening, right? I mean, he actually winds up coming at him with these streaming wolf swords to try to go and deflect his pad cannons, and he's kind of coming at him, and in mid-attack, he winds up stopping Zoro's attack and just throwing him back like a ragdoll, like it was nothing, right? So Zoro obviously can't keep this up, and then it winds up Kuma is obviously able to teleport or move very quickly or whatever the case may be, because all of a sudden he winds up behind Zoro and he's just this huge looming like 20-foot tall dude that's just about to go and smash Zoro, right? And then all of a sudden we get Sanji comes and he's like, Gonkaza! Boom! And he's just fucking waylays him. This is the first hit that's actually connected with Bartholomew Kuma, right? Hits him, and everybody's like, oh man, this and that, you know, and then we get Sanji, and he's just like, how'd that feel, you know, how'd that feel, Papa Bear, getting your skull cracked, right? He shakes it off like it's nothing. He doesn't even flinch, he doesn't move, he doesn't anything. Sanji falls to the ground, holding onto his foot. He's like, what the hell is your head made out of? Steel? So I don't know if this guy's got a way of being able to go and harden his body or something like that, like the iron body techniques we saw back with CP9. I don't know if the dude does have a metal plate up in his skull, or if he's just supposed to be that powerful and that strong that, you know, his head is like a goddamn piece of steel. I don't know. But all I know is that it's not looking good for everybody, because our crew is already decimated. Luffy's already down and out, at least temporarily. So Kuma then goes, and that's when he starts bringing in that air mass, that bubble, and bringing it down and making the bomb, as I was talking about previous, right? And I'm thinking to me, and of course Zoro's like, stay out of this, you know, to Sanji over there. But Sanji really was. He was just trying to help. And I get it. It's pride and it's all that other shit and it's Zoro's fight. But Sanji was. He was just trying to help because it looked like, you know, Zoro was going to get freaking waylaid. And he would have if Sanji hadn't come in and at least temporarily, you know, slowed down Kuma, I guess you would say, or at least distracted his attention, distracted him a little bit. And Kuma goes and talks shit the whole time, right? And I wouldn't doubt it if Kuma was some kind of goddamn robot or Terminator or something like that, because he kind of talks like one, you know? He's like, oh, the Straw Hat crew, you know, a bunch of weaklings, this will not be fun, but it'll be very simple, you know? And then he says something to the effect of, I had heard there was some, you know, some bounties worth, you know, or some other people on Straw Hat's crew that were actually not terrible, you know? But just how he talks and how he says it, it just seems very, like, robotic and, I don't know, again, like maybe I said, maybe he's like some kind of Terminator or something like that. Anyways, that's besides the point. So he's pulling this bomb in and everything like that, and he's going to go and he's going to release this thing, you know, he's about to release it, and he says, the only way that I will spare you is if you give me Straw Hat's head. If I bring Straw Hat's head to the world government, that will be enough. That will be enough to satisfy their appetite for the time being, at least, and I can leave the rest of you be, right? So Lola, the proposer, and her crew, and then, of course, the other Straw Hats and everything like that, and I mean, do you really think that they would? They didn't even entertain the thought of it. I would have entertained the thought not to ever sell out Luffy, but maybe to buy us an extra few seconds to try to think of some way to go and take this dude out. I've been like, well, maybe you can. I don't know, you know. But anyway, so they're just all like, you know, in a resounding, no, no way, right? And the chapter winds up ending off with him going, oh, very well then, Ursa bomb, and he just looks like this whole bomb like levels the area, man. And it's, you know, it's ripping apart rubble and trees and everything else. Imagine what it's doing to humans, okay? Imagine what it's doing to the actual people, you know? So, absolutely fantastic chapter. Really nice to see Zoro stepping up. And really, he has a couple of great lines in here. He goes, listen, you don't just back down, you know, just because you're tired and just because you're here, let's see here. I'm gonna pull it up just so I can go and make sure that I get my quotes right. You know what I'm saying? All right, so Zoro comes in here. Everybody else is going and talking their nonsense and what have you about it's unfair and everything else. And Zoro says, just stay back, all of you. He challenged me. Didn't you hear? I've accepted the challenge. I don't need help, so don't humiliate me by butting in. And then, let's see here. He has another thing that he said. Here we go. When disaster looms, you've got to step up or shove off, right? And I like that. When disaster looms, you've got to step up or shove off, man. Either you're going to turn tail and run, or you're going to face it head on. You're not going to go and try to buy time and negotiate and everything else. Shit happens. Someone's got to deal with it. Who you going to call? Pirate Hunter Zoro, right? So anyway, and then we've got, making excuses isn't going to change anything. If I die here, then I wasn't worth too much to begin with. And I really like those type of lines because although it seems to some like, hey, you know what, he's willing to just throw his life away, he looks at it as like, you know what, if I wasn't strong enough to begin with, I wasn't worth much to begin with if I can't even go and do this, if I can't take this up, if I can't complete this task. So anyway, Zoro had some very, very good lines in here. I just wanted to mention that. Certainly raises my respect level up for him even higher up. And I already really do. I like him. I admire him. And especially, you know, I look at him as like, he's a guy who can get things done. He's a guy who definitely gets things done. So anyway, that circles around to my chapter question. My chapter question for you, brothers and sisters, is what are your thoughts on Zoro and him obviously accepting the challenge to fight Kuma one-on-one, one of the 7 warlords? And number 2, some of the different lines that he had to say in here, you know. If I die here, I wasn't worth much to begin with. Let me know what your thoughts are on some of those in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for watching, and remember to check out my other channels and follow me on Facebook and Twitter.